The system doesn't fear your body, it fears the day you remember who you are. Alan Watts, before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You wake up tired. Again. Not because you didn't sleep, but because every part of you is disconnected. You move, you work, you eat, you scroll, you function, but you don't live. And deep inside, something aches. Not loudly, quietly, persistently, like a whisper you keep ignoring. It's the voice you've learned to silence, the one that tells you this isn't it, the one that asks, why are you still doing this? The one you shut down with noise, busyness, productivity, distractions. This voice, your soul, is not dramatic. It's calm. But in a world built on noise, calm becomes dangerous. Because calm makes you feel. And feeling threatens the system. The system doesn't need you awake. It needs you efficient. It needs you obedient. It needs you productive enough to survive, but tired enough to never rebel. It doesn't break you with violence. It softens you with comfort. It numbs you with routine. It lulls you into silence with just enough dopamine, just enough hope, just enough someday. And here's the harsh truth. The system doesn't silence your soul. It teaches you to do it yourself. It tells you you're crazy for wanting more, that it's immature to change direction, that listening to your inner voice is risky, unrealistic, irresponsible. So you suppress it. You choose the safe path. And slowly, without even noticing, you become the perfect slave. Because the perfect slave doesn't feel enslaved. He thinks he's making choices. He thinks he's free. But he's not free. He's programmed. Programmed to ignore what hurts. To perform instead of feel. To impress instead of express. To accumulate instead of connect. And he calls it being an adult. He calls it realistic. He calls it life. But it's not life. It's survival on autopilot. It's soul suffocation in slow motion. And here's what no one told you. Every time you ignore your soul, you feed the system. Every time you betray your truth, you strengthen the lie. Every time you dismiss the whisper, you kill a part of yourself. Until one day, you wake up, and there's nothing left to kill. And it's not your fault. No one taught you how to listen. No one taught you that the real war isn't out there. It's inside. But by the end of this video, you'll see how they trained you to abandon yourself and why it's not too late to come back. Most people don't realize this, but the main reason they feel stuck, empty, and disconnected is brutally simple. They don't listen to their soul, not because they're weak, not because they're lazy, but because they were never taught how. Since childhood, they were trained to ignore that subtle, internal voice. The system made sure of it. You were rewarded for being good, not honest. For being quiet, not real. For fitting in, not feeling. And so, over the years, you stopped checking in with yourself. You stopped asking, is this truly me? And replaced it with, is this acceptable? Or, will they approve? That shift is small on the surface, but catastrophic underneath. Because once you start living to meet expectations, your soul stops leading. And when the soul stops leading, life becomes survival. Mechanical, predictable, dull. Here's what's really happening. When you feel the urge to change something, when you feel discomfort in a room, when something inside you says, this isn't my place, that's your soul trying to guide you. But what do most people do? They override it. They explain it away. I'm just being too sensitive. I should be grateful. I'm overthinking. These phrases are not thoughts. They are internalized programming. The voice you silence is the only one that truly knows the way. And every time you shut it down, you give more power to the system. A system that thrives on your confusion. Because when you're disconnected from yourself, you're easy to manipulate, easy to sell to, easy to distract, easy to exhaust. And when you're exhausted, you stop asking questions. You comply. That's why most people live lives of minimal results. Not because they're incapable, but because they've outsourced their inner compass to external noise. They wait for signs, permission, validation. They treat their intuition like a maybe instead of a map. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Look at how the system keeps you busy from morning till night. Work from 8 till 10. Commute. Tasks, responsibilities, obligations. It's all designed to leave you with no energy to reflect, no silence to feel, no courage to question. You go to bed drained and wake up anxious. That's not normal. That's manufactured. The only difference between those who live fully and those who merely exist is this. One group listens to their soul. The other listens to the noise. That's it. That's the whole difference. And if you want to break free, the first step is radical honesty with yourself. What part of you have you been ignoring? What truth are you avoiding because it would force you to change? What do you already know, but pretend not to? You don't need more information. You don't need another book. You need the courage to act on what your inner voice already knows. If you're still here, it means something inside you is awake. Something inside you is done playing small. And if that's true, then stay. Because this space is for those who are ready to stop numbing, stop lying, and start listening. If these words find you, subscribe to the channel. Let the algorithm bring this truth to others who are tired of silence. If you feel like this is about you, follow now. And don't forget the Telegram. That's where we go deeper, where we speak freely, where no one censors what needs to be said. And if you're ready to name it, drop a comment. I'm done running from my pain. Let's see how many of us are truly ready for the truth. The system doesn't need to control you with chains. It controls you by teaching you to ignore yourself. That's the secret. It doesn't force you to obey. It convinces you that your obedience is your own idea. You think you're choosing your life, but what you're actually doing is choosing from a list of pre-approved options. Go to school, get a job, work hard, stay busy, be nice, be quiet, make money, retire. And all of it looks like freedom, but none of it is yours. It's scripted, pre-written. And every time you hear that quiet resistance inside, that whisper saying, "This doesn't feel right," you push it away because it doesn't match the script. The truth is, most people are not living. They're role-playing, performing identities handed to them by family, culture, media, religion, society, and they never question it. Why? Because questioning leads to awakening, and awakening leads to disobedience. The system fears that more than anything. It knows that if you start listening to yourself, really listening, you'll become unpredictable. You'll start saying no. You'll start walking away from toxic patterns. You'll stop buying what you don't need. You'll stop working jobs that drain your spirit. You'll stop pretending to be okay with things that are killing you inside. And once you start doing that, the system loses. It loses your attention. It loses your money. It loses your loyalty. That's why it fights so hard to keep you disconnected. Not through force, through fatigue, through overthinking, through endless distractions, through emotional manipulation, through spiritual gaslighting. It tells you that your inner knowing is just fear or just ego, or just trauma. And yes, sometimes it is. But more often, it's clarity that hasn't found its voice yet. You don't need to doubt every signal your body gives you. You need to relearn how to listen. Think about how many times you felt the truth of something and then talked yourself out of it. You knew the relationship was wrong, but stayed. You knew the job was toxic, but stayed. You knew you were meant for something deeper, but waited. Not because you didn't know, but because the system trained you to distrust your knowing. And the moment you did that, it won. It didn't even need to convince you of anything. It just made you doubt yourself. That's all it takes. Doubt is the leash. Doubt is the collar. And the worst part, you're the one holding the leash now. That's how clever it is. But here's the shift. Once you start noticing this, you can't unsee it. Once you realize how much of your life is built on someone else's story, you begin to pull away. And at first, it's terrifying, because you're stepping into unknown territory. You're walking without a map. But eventually, you realize your soul is the map. It always has been. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it simply waits. And when you finally turn inward, when you finally get quiet enough to feel it, it responds with clarity, with direction, with peace. Not comfort, peace. And that's when things begin to change, not instantly, but deeply, quietly, permanently. Your soul doesn't speak in language. It speaks in tension, in silence, in the sense that something is off, even when everything looks fine. It speaks through the body, through tightness in your chest, a pit in your stomach, the urge to leave when everyone else is staying. But most people have been so conditioned to override these signals that they don't even notice them anymore. They think feeling numb is peace. They confuse exhaustion with productivity. They call their anxiety just stress, and their depression just life. And because the system has normalized this collective disconnection, no one questions it. In fact, the more disconnected you are, the more together you look. You're praised for not complaining. You're rewarded for pushing through. You're admired for being able to endure what you're secretly dying from. That's how deep the programming runs. It trains you to mistrust your own body, your own instincts. You get a feeling that something isn't right, and immediately go into logic, analysis, and justification. You explain it away with statistics, opinions, and rationalizations. But here's the truth. Your soul doesn't need proof. It needs permission. It needs you to stop treating intuition like a glitch in the system and start recognizing it as the original language. Before you could speak, you felt. Before you had beliefs, you sensed. That part of you still exists, buried under years of noise, fear, and pretending. Reclaiming it doesn't require more knowledge. It requires less distraction, less external input, more listening, real listening. The kind where you don't rush to conclusions, where you sit with the discomfort long enough to hear what's underneath it. Every major turning point in your life has come from a moment when you finally listened. Maybe you didn't even know why you made the choice at the time. You just knew you had to. That wasn't luck. That wasn't chance. That was your soul guiding you, despite everything you were taught. Imagine what your life would look like if you stopped ignoring that voice, if you didn't wait for breakdowns to start making real decisions, if you gave yourself permission to trust what you already know. That doesn't mean throwing away responsibility. It means aligning your responsibility with truth. And yes, that might make your life messier for a while, but messy truth is better than clean denial. Always. The reason you feel stuck isn't because you don't know what to do. It's because you're waiting for permission to do what you already know you need to. And here's what no one tells you. That permission is never coming. Not from the system, not from the people around you, not from your past. It has to come from you. You are the authority. You are the guide. You are the one who decides what your life is about. And the moment you claim that, everything begins to shift. Not because it gets easier, but because it finally becomes real. Most people think they need to find a new strategy, a new system, or a new secret to finally fix their lives. But the truth is much simpler and much harder. You need to return to yourself. You need to get radically honest about what you've been avoiding. The job you hate but won't leave. The relationship that drains you but feels familiar. The choices you make not because they feel right, but because they feel safe. These are the places where your soul is screaming, and you keep pretending not to hear it. But deep down, you already know. You always have. You don't need more clarity. You need more courage. And courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting from truth, despite it. The more you listen, the more uncomfortable it becomes at first. Because your soul isn't here to protect your image. It's here to protect your essence. It will call you out. It will pull you away from comfort. It will force you to face your patterns, not to punish you, but to free you. Most people run from this process their entire lives. They build routines, identities, even relationships just to avoid having to confront the real work. But the pain doesn't go away. It just buries itself deeper until one day it explodes through burnout, breakdown, illness, or collapse. That's the cost of silence. That's the cost of ignoring the only voice that's ever been fully yours. Listening to your soul won't guarantee ease, but it guarantees alignment. And in alignment, even the hard things make sense. Even the pain feels like movement. Even the unknown feels like home. You've been trained to think that if something doesn't make logical sense, it should be dismissed. But your soul doesn't speak logic. It speaks resonance, that quiet inner yes or no that you feel in your body before your mind even catches up. The problem is, you've spent most of your life overriding that signal. You've followed advice, chased trends, copied others, and called it self-improvement. But what if all this time, growth wasn't about adding more? It was about removing what was never you. The expectations, the pressure, the guilt, the masks. Your soul is not confused. It's buried. Under layers of noise, you've been conditioned to trust more than yourself. And the more you ignore that dissonance, the more detached you become. Until your life looks fine from the outside, but inside, you're slowly disappearing. That disappearance isn't random. It's designed. The system doesn't want you to wake up. It wants you focused on productivity, status, and compliance. It wants you chasing meaning, but never finding it. It wants you constantly improving, but never arriving. Because when you arrive, when you actually feel peace, you stop being profitable. You stop being predictable. You start making different choices, healthier ones, slower ones, braver ones. And that's dangerous to a system built on your self-abandonment. That's why most people are kept in a loop. Hustle, burnout, repeat. And when you finally break down, the system offers you more distractions. Another vacation, another course, another fix. Anything but the real solution. Silence, stillness, presence. That's where the soul speaks. That's where the truth cuts through the noise. And that's exactly where the system doesn't want you to go. You don't need to burn your life down to find yourself. You need to stop living by rules that were never yours. You need to pause long enough to ask, is this even true for me? Not for your parents, not for your culture, not for your past self, for you, right now. If the answer is no, that's your signal. That's your soul. And it doesn't matter how long you've ignored it. It's still there, waiting, ready, not to judge you, to guide you, back to what's real, back to what matters. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally being who you've always been, before the world told you who to be. That version of you, the real one, is not broken, lost, or behind. It's just quiet, and it's time to listen. You want to hear your soul? Then you have to get quiet enough to notice what's already speaking. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less of what drowns you. The first practical step is this: stop outsourcing your truth. Every time something happens, a decision, a situation, a moment of doubt, pause. Before reacting, before asking someone's opinion, before Googling an answer, ask yourself, what does this feel like in my body? Expansion or contraction? Peace or pressure? Lightness or heaviness? Your soul doesn't speak in drama. It speaks in clarity. If something feels forced, it usually isn't yours. If something feels true, but terrifying, that's often your direction. Learn to notice that. That's your compass. Second, create space. No soul can be heard in chaos. Make time daily, even 10 minutes, with no input, no phone, no music, no scrolling, no stimulation. Just sit, breathe, feel, let whatever rises, rise. Don't judge, don't analyze, just notice. This is rewilding your nervous system. This is deconditioning. Over time, what seemed blurry becomes distinct. Patterns emerge, desires surface, pain speaks, and underneath all that, your voice returns. You'll know it's your soul when the guidance feels ancient, familiar, like something you forgot, not something you learned. The system shouts, the soul whispers. The more you listen, the louder it becomes. Third, act on small truths. Don't wait for massive revelations. Your soul trains you through micro-courage. Say no when you mean no. Leave the room when your body tenses. Speak the thing you always avoid. Rest when you feel guilt for resting. These tiny acts recalibrate your inner authority. They prove to your nervous system that it's safe to choose yourself. And with each act, you build trust. That trust becomes the bridge between knowing and doing. That's how self-betrayal dies. Not in one moment, but in 1,000 tiny acts of honesty. Fourth, track what drains you. Make a list of everything that leaves you feeling numb, flat, irritated, or empty. Then make another list. What leaves you feeling connected, alive, grounded? Look for the patterns. You don't need to change your life overnight. Just start leaning away from the noise and toward the real. Your soul lives in that contrast. The more honest you are about what's not working, the faster your direction becomes obvious. Your job isn't to fix the whole map. It's to take the next honest step, over and over. Fifth, create sacred check-ins. Once a week, ask yourself, where did I betray myself this week? Where did I listen to myself? Where did I abandon my truth to make someone else comfortable? These are not guilt exercises. They're awareness tools. They bring the unconscious into light. They help you course correct before the inner split grows too wide. Your soul isn't trying to control you. It's trying to bring you home. But it can only guide what you're willing to reveal. Sixth, trust the pull, not the pressure. If you're feeling anxious, urgent, rushed, pause. That's usually not your soul. That's programming. But if something keeps pulling you gently, persistently, over time, pay attention. That's not noise, that's alignment. Your real path won't scream for your attention. It will wait for your readiness. And when you finally follow it, everything inside you will recognize the way. Even if the mind panics, the body will know. This is it. You're not here to master the system. You're here to remember who you were before the system told you who to be. The goal isn't perfection, it's connection. The outcome isn't control, it's alignment. You're not meant to chase meaning. You're meant to live it. And that begins the moment you stop betraying what you already know. If this landed with you, subscribe to the channel. Let others who are ready find this. If you feel the shift happening, join the Telegram. That's where the deeper truth lives. No filters, no algorithms, just real words for real people. And if you recognized yourself in these words, leave a comment. I'm done running from my pain. If you feel your time to face yourself has come, write, my darkness is my power. If this video cracked something open, write, I accept my shadow. Let's create a space where truth is normal and pretending is not. This is only the beginning. But there's more, so much more.